So welcome again to this next series of lectures in our webinar series. Good afternoon to all of you. And I think you people are really interacting and learning a lot from our series. So this webinar series is a part of the Azadi ka Amrit Mahotsav, where we are commemorating 75 years of independence and the glorious history of our people, our culture and achievements. So now we see that we are progressing. Now this year we are holding the G20. So India is progressing. We are progressing towards being a global power. This Mahotsav is merely to celebrate our progress, our growth in all sectors. And I'm very happy to say that we in Skill Council also decided to be a part of this and organize 75 webinar series, of which we have completed more than 65. We are doing it in all sectors, and every day we hear the commitments which are being made for net zero, for we say that the 5 goals of India, the NDCs, and now the G20. So here I would like to say, while we are proclaiming or we are interacting, we are discussing, even the Prime Minister is addressing the webinar series which are being held for the budget, post-budget discussions on green growth. So there is a lot of buzz, there is a lot of discussion, there is a lot of interaction in all the areas of environment, waste, renewables, how we will move, what we have to do, how we have to become more sustainable. So then why is it that we are not able to reach where we want to reach? Yesterday I was at the WSDS and there somebody said, we have already crossed the 1.1 limit. And we will soon cross the 1.5 if we don't project, if we don't permit climate finance to go and develop put the plans into perspective for reducing the emissions. So I think every stakeholder has a role to play. We, as a part of the government, we are of course into skilling. We are trying to skill people for the green jobs, for the projects which are coming up, which are there to meet the targets, and the corporates. Now, the corporates is one important sector which is very important, where the compliances are to be observed. The corporate has to come up with plans for making sustainable practices, and of course, going net zero. In the COP27, a word came up, which I read was as greenwashing, that corporates, yes, they are making plans, but are they really implementing those plans? Whatever compliances are required, are they really meeting those compliances? So this is why this topic we have spoken today, and we have chosen today, and we have a very learned speaker today, Dr. Hota. He's a former advisor from Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change. And he has been into compliances with the corporates, with the other sectors, and of course, the regulatory mechanisms. So I welcome you, Dr. Hota, and I thank you for being a part of our series and giving an opportunity for us to interact with you and the participants. I welcome you once again, and I feel that your input today will certainly give us a guideline on how the corporates can move and how the Skill Council also can integrate with the corporates for providing green skills to the industry. Welcome once again. And now I will request Mr. PV Singh to kindly introduce Dr. Hota.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much for welcoming to Dr. Hota sir. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll welcome to the 66th series of webinar. Skill Council for Green Job is organizing a series of webinars to celebrate Azadi ka Amrit Mahotsav as a part of India's celebration of 75 years of independence. In this series, SCGJ is inviting eminent and learned speakers in different sectors on sustainable development, renewable energy, and waste management, so as to deepen the understanding of recent development in these sectors. The first in the series was launched on 24 September 2021. Today we have Dr. Manoranjan Hota sir, who is very experienced learner, distinguished speaker, who will be sharing his expertise and experience on ESG and environment compliance. Dr. Manoranjan Hota's qualification is the MPhil and PhD. He worked as an advisor in Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change and Central Pollution Control Board. Currently, Dr. Hota is working for SCGJ as an advisor and provide his valuable advice suggestions in different projects. Dr. Hota has 38 years of professional experience in the field of environment management, which include environmental impact assessment, pollution control, chemical and waste management, sustainability and environmental governance, etc. He has professional training which include environmental management and audit, impact assessment in University of Aberdeen in UK, pollution control training in the University of Ottawa, etc. Now I am requesting Dr. Hota sir to start your presentation. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, PV, for giving this nice introduction, and many thanks to Dr. Dhamija for opening up the this edition of the 75th Amrit Kal and Amrit Mahotsav. And it's always a pleasure to be with the Skill Council for Green Jobs, and it is more than the pleasure is to be a part of as a 66th participant in the edition of the Amrit Mahotsav being celebrated by the Skill Council for Green Jobs. Well, good day to all of the participants who have joined this 66th edition of the Amrit Mahotsav here in Skill Council of Green Jobs. Today, as Dr. Dhamija has beautifully made that introduction, that why there is a requirement of the ESG, because it is not only due to the environmental driven, but it is also driven by the social as well as largely governed by the governance of the entire, whether it is environment or social or any other issues. What are those national and international significance? Because recently, Honorable Prime Minister has also made a mention at various platforms that we need to have the carbon net zero and then carbon neutral by 2047. So that's the mandate. And then not only the mandate, actually he has catalyzed the spirit of the environment protection vis-a-vis the governance issue, not only in the environment, but also to the corporate, because as after all, at the end of the day, the environment belongs to everybody, corporates, the environment, the social people, the people who has no connection with the government or corporate, because they are also utilizing those ecosystem. So therefore, today's topic, what we have discussed, will be discussing today will be the environment, social governance. I will give you a kind of overview that what is this environment and social and governance does mean it. And then what will be the different components of this ESG, and what are those agencies, organizations to whom the ESG, who has prescribed the various parameters to be observed, and then how this can be complied with. So largely this will be a 1 hour discussion. I will give you the overview, and then of course at the end of the presentation we'll have the QA session. Next, please. Governance, environment, social governance are largely 3 pillars, and those pillars are, depend to closer look at these pillars. One will be the use or the management of water and other resources. I'm just only talking of the environmental pillar, because social governance, I will give it just brief, but largely this session focused more on the environmental issues. So when we say 3 pillars of ESG, this is largely on the environment. So environment talks about the use and dependence of the fossil fuel, the use and management water and other resources, because these are all the finite sources. We cannot go on extracting water and wasting or mismanaging the water. So, and therefore, and also we cannot go on depending on the fossil fuels, the coal and the petroleum products. These are all, finite. We cannot say we can keep on doing, extracting those things and using. And then when we use those fossil fuels and the water in our industries, there are the discharge which will lead to the pollution levels. So that how can that can be seen and monitored? What are the regulations are there? How can be complied with? Next, please. So what is the ESG largely? So with regard to the environment issue, the green energy initiatives, now we have been hearing the Honorable Prime Minister on the green energy, and recently the green hydrogen have been introduced in the large scale. Sorry, by 2025, there will be a lot of initiatives which the government has planned, and then many of the corporates who have already pledged their support to adopt the green hydrogen in their day-to-day implementation. And then, of course, the air and water pollution we have been discussing quite a lot, because the water pollution, first of all, in the 1974, when the Government of India and the Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change has notified the first legislation for water pollution control in 1974. And then when you go back to, when you talk of the air pollution, we brought in the Air Pollution Control Act in 1981. And subsequently, the waste management issue, which have also come up, because initially when we started the environment legislation in 1974 with the water pollution control, there were only talk of the industries who were polluting then, and now also polluting the air and water. So we didn't think of the waste management at that point in time. But of late now, the latest waste management rules, both for the municipal solid waste, plastic waste, e-waste, battery waste, and then hazardous waste, they all have been amended, and final notification which have come for all these waste, that is in 2016. Water usage have been very widely deliberated since 1974. Even our constitution also talks of how this water and air can be managed. Deforestation and carbon emission, which have been, deforestation have been quite old discussions, and there are legislation for forest conservation. But carbon emission and everything has, I think, started for last 10, 15 years, how this carbon emission can be controlled. As Dr. Dhamija has made a mention that we are aiming on, not only we, but all the nations around the globe are now targeting how not to exceed 1.5 degree temperature from the base year, from the heat of the earth. So therefore, those are things. And then those important things of the ESG is it brings awareness to the different climate issues that are occurring and encourage business to adopt best practices and policies. Look, we have policies in place. Now, these policies are adopted by the corporates, and they have their own environmental health and safety policies which are in place, and they are all being internally regulated by the corporates, and also they are being checked by the pollution control boards and the fire safety and other agencies which are been mandated to check this business. And the social part of ESG is largely on the employees, welfare, and how they can be better living within the campus, their retirement benefits within when they were employee, how there will be schooling, how will be the health issues. So those are the social aspect. And when you talk of the governance is an umbrella kind of policy which will talk of the environment, the social, and how they can be implemented on the field with the by the corporates. And their health and safety, as I made a mention, that those are also important when you talk of the social part of the ESG. Next, please. What is the purpose? When we discuss that there is ESG and there are different components of ESG, but what is the purpose? Some people may ask, I mean, many of you know what is the ESG. We are only refreshing our memory now. So ESG is largely a framework that helps stakeholders understand and organizations manage, and the organization manages risk and opportunities around the sustainability issue. Now, this sustainability is largely developed from the 1977 when the UN discussions all around the world has come up. Right from the 1972 as a matter of start through the sustainable development. Now there are a lot of round of discussion around the globe within the UN, and then they have been talking of the sustainable development goals. Now we have 17 sustainable development goals as of now. So there are organizations who manages those sustainability goals and issues, thereby bringing in a better environment in and around their factory or any facility. So ESG has evolved, not today, but they are all from the historical moments that focused on the health issues, the safety issues, the pollution control and reduction, and the, of course, as we discussed, the social issues, corporate philanthropy, which largely they operate through their trust, which do a lot of philanthropy, proposals across the country, and of course the international. Next, please. Next, please. Yeah. So this is how a simple ESG, the run through. So this is not a simple action plan, but strategy-led action plan. So look, this particular point, it is not only the action plan which the ministry or government brings out through a legislation, but also an action plan which are developed within the industry or any facility. But this is not only an action plan, but there has to be strategy, how to implement those action plans. And then at the end of the year, they review it and prepare a report which they submit to their higher up management and to review and upgrade their strategy and action plan. So ESG is not more, is an intention, but this is an action plan with a strategy. So this is the strategy will creating the practical plan which will achieve the real results. It is not only that, okay, I have an action plan, I have given to the authority and to the management, but unless it has a really, rather if it doesn't achieve any results, then the action plan has no meaning. So the entire effect, the net effect of those will be very bad. So this is from a investment to sustainable innovation. When you talk of the action plan with the strategy implementation, so it will have to have some investment. So that investment has to come from when you talk of good principles and good business, which will because you have your stakeholders, you have your shareholders. Now people around the globe have been very sensitized about the environment. So if the company doesn't perform environmentally, so many of their share also goes down. So therefore the money which they bring out into the action plan also comes from business, and business comes from their shares, and share will be are influenced by the environmental activity and its compliances. So these all bringing together the environmental issue, the economy issue, the social issue together. And then of course when you implement those, you always talk of the techno-economical feasible technology. That's key, because now we have been talking of the net zero or carbon neutral by certain times. And also when we talk of any international negotiation, whether it's a hazardous waste or the mercury or the plastic, so they all require not only the a point in the whiteboard, but that should have the most techno-economical feasible technology, so that you will be complying with those standards perfectly, betterly, and that will help the environment as well as the people of the country. Next, please. So corporates now, they have understood, over the years, because the mindset of the corporates or the government for that matter, when you talk of the waste management, have increasingly, their mindset has also changed with the political leadership, with the new evolution of the legislations. So there is a good sign that we as a nation are increasingly more sensitive for the environment. As a matter of fact, you may be knowing many of the countries, some of the countries in the world, particularly the Scandinavians, they make the environmental compliance as one of the polling issue. And also many of the industries they run if they have a good environmental records. So these factors have encouraged the companies to look more closely at their health and safety, environmental and wider human rights practices. See, you may be noticing or may have noticed many of the sewerage cleaning or hazardous waste management or e-waste management on the dump site. Many of the underprivileged people who are being employed or used to do this are, very from the health perspective, are not good. So therefore, there is no human rights practices are being followed there. So although there are legislations, but then those are not being seen as a right humanly practices. So therefore, those need to be factored in when you talk of the social governance in as a part of your ESG. So that will help you if you are caring for your society and the people around. So that will develop the moral and ethical expectation from the people, and that will help the companies or the government to grow in future day by day. Next please. So what is the compliance then? So we have been talking of the rules, the regulations, the policies of the government, the policies framed by the corporates and the local governments. So this has been increasingly, you have a water pollution control, you have air pollution control, you have waste management, you have batteries, you have, mercury management. Then you now recently with the climate negotiations, there are a lot of things which are coming up, which are having those economic angle for control. So these are very complex issues and very, very challenging regulatory environment for companies to navigate. So therefore, if there are people from the corporates, they will be knowing that how difficult to navigate through all those complex issues. So broadly, there are three perspectives of the ESG compliance. One, we talk of the customer's perspective. We discuss that if the customers are not happy, your share and your reputation will go down. So therefore, the company has to work for that. And then there are competitors around the world. So they will also be very mindful that they should not fare very bad in the market. And if they don't comply with the ESG and of course, the regulators' perspectives. So regulators are always behind the corporates for compliances. So there is, if they fail in those regulations compliance, so there are various courts of law, National Green Tribunal, the High Court, the Supreme Court. So that is a regulator perspective, how they can prevent going into the non-compliance of the regulatory stipulations. So broadly, these three elements, which how they have to deal with within the business for their good perspective and a better perspective for a future. Next, please. So there are the ISO standards which have been prescribed at an international level, the International Organization for Standardization, and each country has its own organization for standardization. We have Bureau of Indian Standards. So largely the countries who are following those ISO standards have to follow, because BIS also has country-specific standards, but largely they work on the foundation of the ISO. So therefore, there are agencies, organizations who have prescribed these standards, which need to be complied into for environmental protection. So we can see the ISO 31000, then ISO 19600 are largely, attracting the attention of the ESG practitioners as well as the corporates. So the ISO 31000, which talk of the risk management, largely the which was published in the 2009. And the ISO 19600 is largely talking of the compliance management systems, which published in the 2014. Of course, there are a lot of further amendments or the circulars guidelines came up after therefore. So this risk management and the compliance management are the first global compliance management system which started way back in 2009. So therefore now we are almost 2 decades, close to 2 decades for implementing. So there is a lot of the evolution of there. So there are a lot of learnings, know-how. So there we are improving day by day how we comply with those risk management and compliance management. Next, please. So when you talk of the risk management, the ISO 31000 identifies a number of principles which need to be satisfied in order to make a risk management more effective. So it doesn't mean that you have a guidelines, but if it is not effectively managed, or if the guidelines are not very effective, or it is not management friendly in terms of implementation, then that of no use. So therefore 31000 has been more and more pragmatic and practical principles which need to be followed in those guidelines. And this had to be effective in order to have a compliance management. So what largely the 3 areas which 31000 ISO establishes in the process, they say you must identify what you are talking of, which risk you are talking of, and then you analyze it, and then evaluate whether the risk should be modified by risk treatment in order to meet their risk criteria. So that is how the first identify, then you analyze the identified risk, and then you evaluate that what kind of to what degree this risk could be, and then you make out your strategy and action plan to deal with the risk if it is coming up, or at least you should have a plan need to be which is approved by appropriate agents, authorities in the from the legal point of view, as well as from your corporates or organizations point of view. So those has to be put in the place. If there is a risk comes up, or like your MIC accident in Bhopal, there absolutely no risk management structure was in place, and based on the 1998, those 1998, yeah, 94 rather. So these things which will things. So now the 1986, the Environment Protection Act therefore come up. So therefore you have to have the risk identify, manage, and everything. Sorry, the Bhopal that in 1984, and then we have 1986, the Environment Protection Act. Next please. So how this compliance management can be seen, which have been ISO 19600 defines as an outcome of an organization meeting its obligation, which is made sustainable by embedding in the culture of the organization. So when you talk of the, see each word in this statement of the ISO 19600 talks about, you have to talk of a sustainability of those obligations and outcomes, and not only that you have chartered those, but also you have to embed in the culture of the organization, because that is the key. See, now we have the Motor Vehicle Act says you must have a helmet while you drive a two-wheeler. But if it is not embedded into the culture of the motorcyclist, then it is very difficult. They can only give on fines, but then it will never that. So those are very small things that it has to come into the culture of the organization. And not only the culture, they have to behave in that manner and the attitude of that when they implement those things. So once you have those social factors inculcated into the employees of these organization, then it will have they will have a good culture and they behave that way, and then they have that attitude how to protect the companies and the environment. So the 19,600 ISO doesn't specify the requirements, but also provide the guidance on compliance management and the the best practices which they recommend. It is not limited to that recommended practices. People around the world also go beyond that, how they manage in terms of the recent climate discussions, the recent other international discussions based on the waste material, air pollution, hazardous waste. So those need to be more tuned to the more recent discussions and practices being prescribed. Next, please. So the ESG, we have discussed this because how the companies in the past slides. So these are the ESG criteria are a set of standards which we discussed for a company's operation that socially conscious investors use those potential investments. Social criteria examine how it manages the relationship with the employees, suppliers. It is not, yes, now this bullet is more relevant. It is not only talking of the employees, but also the entire supply chain, the entire ecosystem around the corporates or the organization, including suppliers, the customers, and the community where it operates. So therefore, the entire ecosystem has to go in when you report to the environmental social governance. As we discussed, the governance deals with the company's audit, executive pay, leadership, internal control, and shareholder rights. So the first thing which you need is the leadership. That will give you directions. How can you control internally, how your shareholders' rights are protected and shareholders are profited out of their business. So those are the issues of the ESG. When you talk of the environmental criteria, social criteria, the governance criteria, and this entire pyramid will be successful once all those facets of this pyramid are addressed properly with the strategy and action plan. Next, please. So when we talk of the environmental criteria where the investors seek the value-based investment, they are not only talking of the investment alone nowadays. So they, when we talk of the environmental criteria, the environment may is not limited to. I just given a small flavor of that what environmental criteria should include. The energy. Now we are talking of a lot of energy, whether it is fossil or non-fossil, and then how we talk of the climate control, and then the other environmental discussions around the world. Waste management, the pollution treatment, the natural resources use and its conservation. And of course, we have to also be very mindful about the treatment of animals, because largely when we talk of the industries, they are largely into those secluded areas, either in the deep forest or in the bank of river. So they have to clear up certain part of the forest, and those ecosystem also will be disturbed. Both the trees, the animals, the groundwater, the soil, topsoil, they'll all be. So those need to be, have a balance. Therefore, the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change has brought out the last notification of the Environment Impact Assessment in 2006, which talks about all those comprehensively, how industry should go into all those details and they give us a detailed plan action that how this can be addressed and controlled in order to make their business much more prosperous. The social aspect, the relationship of the business, the company's business, the suppliers' values, whether it's aligned to your the corporate's values and policies, and the percentage which they get out of the profit. We'll see in a few slides later that there is a ESR fund, amount social responsibility, where that will be used for the benefit of the local communities. So those are this, and the governance, of course, we discussed that the entire thing, whatever, whether it's environmental, social, or the economic, has to be very, very transparent, so that the investors, they look into and decides how a company is performing. Next, please. We have discussed this, the shareholders' involvement in decision taken, because they come to the AGM and other company meetings, so they always flag this issue that you are doing better or not doing better, and then non-compliance with environmental regulations can result in financial cost, because now the judicial activism is so high, so they always put a cost to your mismanagement. Recently, who are the people who are in NCR? They must have said Ghaziabad has been given financial levy on the municipal corporations, which is very important point, because governments are never being penalized. But it's 100 crores. Now, recently, Delhi government has been penalized that way. Down in south of India, the Ranipet, the tanneries issues, where the industries were penalized for non-compliance. We have seen the copper plant in Tamil Nadu, which have been shut down. So there are so many issues where if you don't, in the corporates or the government, particularly the municipal corporations, if they don't comply with. Now, recently also in UP, some of the states have been penalized for non-compliance of the regulations of those. So therefore, non-compliance will lead to the loss of finance. And then when the investment in the ESG is not done, so then there is not called as a sustainable investment, and that will impact your investment and the share holding the personnels. So therefore, the company must comply with the environmental standards and the rules for the conservation and regulations published by the government from time to time. Next, please. So what are those initiatives which have been taken to ensure the ESG compliance? One of the initial milestones which has been identified are the disclosure requirements. We'll come to that, how SEBI has now recently mandated legally that every corporate has to do. So initially, when we talk of in 2011, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs brought out a guidelines on the social, environmental, and economic responsibilities. So this is not new, but we have only refined the ESG compliance over the years since 2011 domestically. But if you see compliance who have been 1996, we have seen the international agencies have brought out. Again, in 2012, the SEBI formulated the business responsibility reports, BRR, very commonly known as, which has mandated the top 100 listed entities, at least to start with. And it was extended to 500 by 2015 by market capitalization to file BRR as a part of their annual report. So you see the right from 2012 and 15 to 2015. So this has become a very mandatory issues. Why I'm saying this a mandatory and everything, because this will create jobs. Whoever will be are now a part of this deliberations or elsewhere, each individual part, whether it's environmental or social or governance issue, they all create different skills, different jobs for the people around the world in the corporates or in the government. Next, please. So in 2021, SEBI replaced the existing BRR reporting requirements with a more comprehensive integrated mechanism, which is known as the business responsibility and sustainability reports. Now look, now we are saying that there has to be a responsible business and a business responsibility. So a responsible business and business responsibility, and which has to be sustainable. So therefore, this is a very more comprehensive kind of guidelines and reporting requirements which SEBI has brought in. So this is mandatorily applicable to all top 1,000 listed entities. We see that 2015 there are only 500, but now we have mandated, by SEBI has mandated 1,000 listed entities from 22-23 onwards. So therefore, no corporate is now escapable not filing this, and this will decide their market value and market strategy. So BRSR seeks to disclosure from the listed entities on their performance against the 9 principles of national guidelines for responsible business conduct. So look, now let us look at national guidelines already been published that need to be seen, and that has to be complied with your disclosure statement, which are filed every year by the companies. So therefore, this is not only now a voluntary approach, this has become a mandatory legally under the rules. One has to go for the environmental, social, and governance issues within the corporates. Therefore, so the corporates has to be very, very mindful. So when they are mindful, they will create more jobs. Therefore, in order to compliance and achieve those mandatory goals. Next, please. Initially, when we talk of the ISO, and so there is another agency which also brings out the guidelines, because these are international agencies, they can't make mandatory. But there are reporting, the Global Reporting Index Initiative, GRI, has brought out various guidelines and standards, which are, they represent the best practices which are being adopted globally. And that can go to the public while reporting their things on a range of economic, environmental, and social impacts. So there is a lot of guidelines precisely brought out by the GRI on various aspects of the ESG. So the sustainable reporting based on the standards provides the information about an organization's positive or negative. It is not necessarily that the corporate has to bring out the positive, but you also have to bring out what you have not achieved so far. And if you have not achieved so far by this, then what is your time plan? What is the time frame and strategy? So that report has to be it has to contain all those things: what you achieved and what you have not achieved, and when it will be you are achieving the strategy action plan. So this is our not only a standard, but there are interconnected standards with various facets of the ESG. So using all those standards, then the company will decide that what are those relevant materials which are requiring for that. So therefore, there are the GRI talks about the 3 series of standards supporting the reporting process. What are those 3 series? One is your universal standard, which apply to all organizations, irrespective of your production or the company's product. Then GRI also published the sector-specific standards to compliance the guidelines. And then there again the third part will be the topic standards, each listing disclosures relevant to a particular topic, whether it's air pollution, if it's air pollution, whether it is to come through boiler or fugitive emission. So those are all topic-wise standards. If it is a water effluent, if it is a green energy, how it will be applied, how your energy saving, whether it is affecting you, complying with the Bureau of Energy Efficiency or International Energy Efficiency. Those are all, topic wise, the standards are prescribed. So it's a very interesting and good document to see and follow. Once you follow those standards, it is very easy to comply with everything. Next, please. So there are different documents for universal standard, the sector standards, the topic standards, and those are the documents which are briefly given. GRI 1, 2, 3 for universal standards, and then you are from 11 to 18, and there are other for the sector. And whereas the topic, it starts from there are various topics, numerous reports and standards which have been brought out by the GRI. Next, please. So the sustainability reporting and financial value creation reporting in the global reporting initiative. There are standards which have been prescribed to enable organization to report most significant impacts of their activities and business relationship on economy, environment, and people, including impacts on their human rights. And so these impacts are primarily important for the sustainable development and to organize responsibility for stakeholders when they reporting the sustainability reporting. And when you talk of once you do that, then there has to be due diligence. What is due diligence? The due diligence is how the organization identifies, prevents, mitigates, and address those risks and potential, how they can manage, particularly the negative impacts on the economy, the environment, the people, how they manage. So that strategy we discussed in the beginning, strategy and the integration into the how the action plans. So those need to be seen how this can be addressed and due diligence by the government. So many of the corporates I know, they have their own due diligence team, not connected to the people who write the GRI report or ESG report. So that the team, the environmental audit team, they go and see that various aspects which have been prepared and documented are to the point or not. So therefore, there is a due diligence is more requirement for companies or the corporates or the governments to see. Next, please. And recently, we have seen the Committee of Parties, the COP27 for the climate change and climate change. So they also have echoed not really very clearly that ESG, but they also talk of, when we talk of ESG, how this can be taken forward. All the international agreement always talks of the capacity, because unless you have enough capacity, or not only the enough, but the eligible people or competent people which need to be there to enhance the capacity for the not only for the corporates or the government, but also the government also do vice versa, the development of a capacity of the people who are working for it. So there are gaps, and then there are big needs to which are existing in the developing countries and also the developed countries as well, to enhance their effectiveness and success and sustainability of the interventions. So therefore, when we talk of capacity development, that means the people around the corporates and the government need to have those skills. That skill development is the key, which the Skill Council for Green Jobs are doing. That's our job, to develop skills around the industries and corporates and those municipalities, so that they can perform their duties much more better, during their job. And the climate change COP27 has also adapted the adaptation. How this adaptation can change so that we have this net zero and carbon neutrality in future. So there is a big program by the international agencies and particularly the government of India. Adaptation is a big program under the climate change. So now what does it mean is, the transformation approach to enhancing the capacity to adapt, strengthening the resilience and reducing the vulnerability to climate change. So what are those vulnerability of the climate, whether it is a very hot or very heat situation, like now the temperature of the earth is going increasing, and particularly in North India we see the temperature goes even past 50 degree. So therefore, how can there can be those population, the plants, animals, how they can be adapting those extreme climate. And similarly, we have flood and storm every monsoon or otherwise also. So how those coastal belt can be protected and the coastal habitation can be protected. So those resilience are being studied and implemented on ground. So therefore, there is a requirement significantly the scaling up the provisions in the climate finance, technology transfer, capacity building, skill development for adaptation. So this is the key when we talk of the skill development in the adaptation and any other activities for protection of the environment. Next, please. So when we talk of the GRI, then we talk of BS SEBI's issues. Now, how this is being implemented on the ground? So the ESG reporting started way back in 2013 by the corporate as a corporate social responsibility, the CSR, through the Companies Act. We just had seen it in the previous slides. In 2014, the statute came into force and India became the very first country to legally mandate the CSR. See, nowhere in the world until 2014, any country has come up with the mandatory corporate social responsibility. But in the Europe and Western countries, they have their the companies are very good for social responsibility. But in India, it has been mandated. 2% of their profit has to go for the CSR. In addition to the CSR, the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change has also mandated that corporate environmental responsibility in addition to the CSR. But corporate environmental responsibility, CER, it does mean that the entire new project which will be approved and implemented by the corporate industry has to provide certain amount, not in the percentage, but then it has to come up and approved by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change for environmental management. So there has to be, provisions for activities and a strategy and action plan. So that environmental management plan will have those budgetary provisions as a CER. So the CSR largely talking of the social, environmental, governmental, and consumer concerns within their business, and then the CSR proposals which are prepared internally by the corporates has to be a part of your reporting as your CSR achievements and reporting to the corporate company affairs. Next, please. So over the time, the CSR initiative have more perceived as a philanthropics, as they focused more on the social parameters of CSR, largely yes, because it is spent on the education, it is on the water supply, it talks of the health issues, it talks of other social issues around the company. Now they are focusing with the CER and others. So environmental has been added into the more on the environmental awareness and sustainability submission of the sustainability report. So, what we are having? We have a global reporting initiative. We have a value reporting foundation, but different standards. We have a UN Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs), which are 17 goals, largely for the protection of the environment in a very more sustainable manner. Next, please. So the requirements we have discussed, these are only more in a graphic manner, which we are trying to see by 22-23 financial year. The SEBI requirements talks of the sustainability report, which has to be complied with the the guidelines which have been prepared by the SEBI through that BRSR proposals. So we have discussed this. Next, please. So what are those few disclosures in the circular of the SEBI? You have to say that what are the opportunities and how your approach and strategy to mitigate or adapt to the risk along with the financial implications for the same. As I said, both in the CSR and the CER, these questions, this management plan has to do what is your mitigate and adapting strategies and action plan in along with the financial provisions. And what will be your sustainability related goals and targets and performance against the same. So if you are saying 22-23 financial year, you are saying these are my goals and these are targets. And when you go for 23-24, you will say, okay, I have achieved all the goals and targets. But if I have not achieved, then what are my shortfalls and how you will be achieving in the subsequent years with the not only the time target, but also the financial provisions and also reasons why you have gone achieving the goals and targets. So the environment related disclosures which will be covering is a very key now. Now when this climate change also aspect has been very carefully and stressfully has been embedded in this. How you use your resources, energy, water, then air pollution emission, the greenhouse gas emission, the transition to circular economy. Now we are talking of circular economy everywhere now, particularly on the waste management. And even the corporates, now we are encouraging them that if company A's waste is coming out, could be or can be and being also done in many instances, those waste can be a raw material for other industries. So that is how our circular economy will be achieved. Waste generated and used by as other corporates or otherwise, then you have to have the best waste management practices, biodiversity management, and also the finally last but not least, the social related disclosures covering your workforce, the value chain, the communities and consumers. So basically these are the targets and the guidelines broadly which the sustainability report has to be submitted as per your SEBI circular and guidelines need to be complied with every year without fail. Next, please. So these are the people, who are the employees, who will be the communities, who will be the consumers. That has been very, duly elaborated in the guidelines. And if it is communities, then you have to disclose on social impact assessment, rehabilitation, resettlement, and with regard to the consumers, there has to be disclosure on the level of the product. What is the details of that product, and if product failed, the product has to be recalled. Recently, we have seen the Maruti also has to be called back several cars because of there are faulty functions in that because on the complaint of the consumers. So those need to be have to in your plan and strategies. And of course, the data privacy and cyber security is a part of now everyday's life. So those need to be addressed when you talk of, and more so when you talk of the employees, gender biased or gender equality has to be seen when you talk of your own workers. So therefore, it's a very, very comprehensive circular. The SEBI has adopted the international agencies' requirements and guidelines and has its own as fit into the domestic circumstances. Next, please. So there are some few examples which I have just brought in for your reference. CRISIL has released the ESG scores for 225 Indian companies across 18 sectors in 2021. So therefore, there are agencies which release the ESG scores. So once you have a better score, your share value has more values. People will consider or a company's performance based on the ESG scores. You now can understand that environmental consideration has the greatest influence on the scores and financial and other issues. So they are also doing great job. There are other issues where are doing very badly with regard to the ESG score are oil and gas, chemicals, metals, mining, cement companies, because these are all huge industries using the water, the resources. If they want to change those practices, they need to completely change the technology. It is not that they mandate it, strategize it, unless they have an action plan. But that requires a huge, investment. I give you an example. When we talk of the mercury phase out from India, I think India is the first country in the world where mercury-based manufacturing process has been completely phased out. So when we talk of mercury phase out, the electrolysis process has also been changed. Because in order not to consume mercury in the electrolysis process. So therefore, that is requirement a huge investment for the change of technology and also the infrastructures to manage this technology. So because these industries are showing a low ESG score, that requires a huge investment for change of technology, change of infrastructure, and they are doing it in phased manner. And I'm sure all those companies will come up with a better ESG score in future once they change and transform their technology and infrastructure. Next, please. And when we talk of ESG, the capacity building, the adaptation, and then rules, regulations, so all these require skills. And once you have skills, it will create jobs. So environmental social governance not only has a policy statement, not only have the guidelines, not only have those parameters, but also it talks about how those can be applied. So for application of those things, it requires skills. And once you have those skills, there are enough jobs in the market. So therefore, ESG and green skill and jobs are very, very closely connected values in this. So therefore, I would urge those people in these discussions, or maybe their friends, need to be said, or the words should propagate that everybody in their own, suppose somebody is a finance guy or somebody is a IT, somebody is technology. So they should pursue in that and develop green skills. Skill Council for Green Jobs have been doing those in area of solar, in terms of now we are talking of the green hydrogen. We are bringing out those policy those skilling subjects which will be developing. We have done it for wastewater management. We have done for the waste management. So those people who are being skilled now have better opportunities, and those who have not have a job change also have a better opportunity for that. So therefore, the ESG and green skill has more opportunities for creating and jobs. So that could be a better adaptation for this. Next, please. The green skill, it will address the Sustainable Development Goal 9, which includes the infrastructure development, retrofitting of industries to make them sustainable. They can address the sustainable management and efficient of natural resources. So we are also in the process of doing our qualification packs for green hydrogen and low transition to a low carbon to resource efficient economy. Requires those systematic changes and also requires the skilling. So those are the things which are coming up, and we at the Skill Council for Green Jobs are developing those skilling modules for imparting training and skilling. Next, please. So when you have more skills and more jobs, so your economy also automatically will improve. Whether it's a structural change, which is increased demand for tasks, whether new activity will create new occupations, and there will be need for new skill profiles and training framework. So these are the issues which are not only skills is increasing the economy as well. Next, please. Next, please. So what are those broadly? What are those green general skills? Either they can be in the engineering and technical skills. There could be science skills, which we have been doing in the creating those modules within the Skill Council for Green Jobs. I think I have passed the time. Next, please. And operation management skills, the monitoring skills, we have done for the waste management, we have done for the wastewater, the solar. So those monitoring also has been developed skills. Next, please. So in addition to these skills, we can also design thinking, creativity, adaptability, resilience, which we discussed for the climate change. So these are all critical issues for skill development, which we in the Skill Council for Green Jobs are doing those modules for imparting the skill development. Next, please. So these are the green future if we are having a better skill development. So I don't want to go through because we have already 10 past 1. So these are the sustainable green future, which will be green employment skills. So those are the requirement for the future when we talk of the sustainable development. Next, please. These are the transitions we have discussed. I don't want to go into much more detail. How you recognize the occupation and the transition, and then your environment challenges and effective skills response strategies and good practices. So those are need to be done, and which will create more skills and jobs, more jobs through their skills. Next, please. The stakeholders are responding very well because your bureau, BSc and the Tata Consultant Services, they are also doing a good skill development within their corporates. So stakeholders are responding very nicely and good that they are all responding. So the corporates have been welcoming all those skill development and the ESG as a whole. Next, please. Policymakers has been gradually since quite a long time have been improving their mandatory jobs, ruling, making rules and everything. So therefore, these are the more possible way how this can be done in future by the policymaker to legalize, legislate it in more than formal manner. Next, please. The role of investors and companies, we have seen that how this can be, but they are also very critical in doing this ESG. So therefore, we have now understanding very greatly that the investors and companies have a great responsibility and interest in doing this ESG for their compliance. Next, please. There are other challenges, in order to do the transparencies, standardization of all the reporting requirements. So that's what I have been telling, that there has to be good skills for even the ESG writing, sustainable report writing. So that will be a major skill. I think every company in the country will be requiring a few people who can write the sustainable report. This is a big area of opportunities. So therefore, the challenges need to be addressed by the skilled people, which we are trying to develop within the country. Next, please. I think with this, let me finish the presentation. I hope, I believe that that will give you some kind of a sensitization of how this ESG looks like, and what are the importance of ESG, and how this can be complied, and how it is going to be developing the skills and for occupational and professional job creation. Thank you so much. And if there is any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Am I audible, Mr. PD Singh?
Yes,
am I audible?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
thank you very much,
Please.
Dr. Hota.
Yeah.
And questions, of course, I don't see any in the chat box, but I had put, there's a question from Mr. Ranveer Singh.
Yeah, Ranveer Singh. Yes, ma'am.
Is there any guideline for disposal of wastewater?
Yeah, there are guidelines. If you see the ISO and the reporting system, there are guidelines for this kind.
Okay. I had put in a question regarding SEBI. I think you have covered it. Is it?
Your voice is echoing.
Actually, yeah. Dhamija ma'am, written on the chat box, has SEBI mandated companies for ESG compliance?
Yes. That is what, they have to submit their report annually. That's what I made a mention in one of my slides, that they have to submit the compliance, not only compliance, the non-compliance also. So, and not only in addition to the non-compliance, what could be the strategy action plan, and what will be the next timeline for achieving those. So these have been mandated. Yes.
No, we had one earlier presentation on carbon accounting. So they had told that SEBI had listed some 10 companies for scope 3, adopting scope 3 guidelines. Carbon
accounting has now come very recently. When you talk of the environmental per se, 1,000 companies have been listed by SEBI, which will be complying with those.
1,000 companies.
Yeah, they have come up the carbon and the energy thing, which have come up largely in the COP27. So that also I heard that the SEBI is contemplating or putting those things from the next financial years.
Okay. So like our PM also had insisted
yes,
that the companies have to adopt compliance strictly.
Very true.
Yeah. So that greenwashing, which I used to discuss with you, that has to be avoided.
No, greenwashing will not be a greenwashing, particularly within the country like India, because we have a very firm leadership. So that's it.
And this is going to make a lot of difference in our emissions, once the supply chains are decarbonized.
And that will also create a lot of jobs, and for which the Skill Council for Green Jobs has to develop those modules, so that we will be in a position to deliver those products when there will be creating of jobs will be there.
Green jobs, so every activity when it is decarbonized becomes green.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not
So
only
this you-
only the climate, but also there are other issues. You know, the conservation of forest. You talk of the waste management we have started, wastewater management we have started. So there are a lot of air pollution, water pollution. There are a lot of things which the green jobs. There are opportunities for the skilling.
So if there are no questions, Mr. Singh, I can thank Dr. Hota, and you can please proceed with the, thank you, Dr. Hota. It was a really nice presentation, and we got a lot of insight into the compliance, but the problem is that industries have to follow it judiciously. That is there.
If they don't follow, the National Green Tribunal is there. So
yeah.
So there are a
No,
lot
but tell me, we were yesterday talking that Green Tribunal has fined the Delhi government with 2,322 crores. So will that be effective?
Certainly, see, that will be an example for other municipal corporations that they won't do this kind of things. See, tomorrow Delhi government may not pay 2,000. At least some penalty has to be paid.
They've given only 1 month, 1 month for payment.
Yeah, even if a government pays 1 rupee, a penalty is a penalty. That is a big lesson.
Yeah. There are 2 questions Sumit Gupta has asked. In which areas can technology and startups help corporates achieve ESG scores? And second is there any specific challenge the organizations are facing in performing well when it comes to ESG? So the first is regarding what are the parameters or indicators where they can score for ESG, and second is what are the challenges?
See, the parameters have been prescribed by the ISO as well as BSRs. So those parameters has to be, complied with, so that they have a better score. So once you do that, then you will see that how much score you are getting it. Secondly, the areas of startup, there are a lot of startups now. Even green hydrogen also will come up with startups. The technology also bring in many startups. So those are already there, but that requires the good entrepreneurship. So that's the requirement.
Yeah, and the challenges which they have for these achieving these ESG performance for ESG.
The greatest challenge is the people who are preparing those ESG reports are poor. And therefore, I have been stressing that even if writing a report of ESG, you require skill. If you go to a good consultant, they will provide you a better service, and your report, before you write your report, your assessment of that particular company will be much more in great detail with the technology and policies.
Or alternatively, Dr. Saab, every company is now having an environmental, group for people who are handling the issues regarding environment. Yes. So those people can be more upskilled, or they can be made more, versatile in report writing. Because I have seen sustainability is a part of the annual report.
Very true.
1 chapter. So it has to be more than that.
No, Abhi, you may be seeing, I have seen at least many, some of these big companies, besides their one chapter in the annual report, they are bringing out the sustainability report altogether.
Okay. Separate yes, also.
Separate, which they will be submitted to SEBI.
Okay.
It's not annual report. Annual report certainly will have 1 chapter, but the sustainability report will have to be a separate one.
Yeah.
Which they submit to the GRI as well as now to SEBI.
So they have to, when they make the report, they have to, identify the points where the decarbonization, or they have, projects or points where the decarbonization has taken place.
True.
Okay, that's good. So I'll request Mr. PB Singh. I thank you. And Mr. Sumit Gupta also has thanked you for the information. Yeah. And I request Mr. PB Singh to make a formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. First, Anita Ahuja also joined, who is the next speaker for this webinar.
Yeah.
And thank you, Anita ji, for joining.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was very interesting. I have a lot of questions. One, of course, on top of my mind was the corporates are complaining that if they do follow ESG, then they are going on losses. But I thought on some other forum we can discuss this.
No, I think Dr. Hota can answer this.
No, that is how if they say they go on loss, so you find out where is the loss. Either it is a raw material or resources loss, or it is loss due to their shareholders has gone down because of their environmental sustainability report is poor, or their non-compliance is poor. Unless there is a market they are driven. How can they be poor? So that has to be a big assessment where actually they have gone wrong. That's see, companies always will talk on the losses. Nobody will say profit except the big industries. So that's a very relative question actually to see how this loss can be not due to certainly the environment. If they manage their environment, certainly they will be making less loss if they are not, the product is not sustainable.
I agree. But your lecture was very interesting. Very, I mean, I will share it with my team members also. And
Thank you.
Yeah, I think the video recording will be available in our YouTube.
Yes.
Yeah, and there's one more point. ESG means materiality. I don't understand this.
Sorry?
ESG, Udipta, can you please give her the rights? What does she mean by, or he or she means by materiality? I don't know. Huh?
Materiality.
I already gave the rights.
Yeah.
Materiality issue means you are talking of the raw material?
For any company.
No, do you mean by material means raw material or?
Yes, raw material.
Yeah.
Yes, raw material.
Raw material is the key issues. When you talk of a life cycle assessment, suppose if you are comparing between the glass and plastics, the plastics will be more environmental benign than the glass, because the production value chain, a glass will require more of silica, the manufacturing process will lot of energy, emission, consumption of energy, and then the glass bottles or the wares has to be transported with a very heavy truck. That will also emit a lot of emission from the transport, and then your material handling. So therefore, raw material plays a major role in deciding. Now we are talking of the decarbonization. We are now trying to phase out the your fossil fuels, moving towards solar and green hydrogen. So raw material always will talk of this matters actually, in terms of your pollution production management, because the best raw material you would use, the best technology used, that will reduce your environmental cost. So certainly raw material is the key.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Ma'am, before I'll say thanks to sir and the participant, I would like to announce the Skill Council for Green Job and Jackson Group celebrates World Sustainable Energy Day 2023 on 28th February 2023 at 2 p.m. So I'm requesting all of you to join on 28th February 2 p.m. and the topic is the solar power, energy transition, energy security, clean energy.
Great.
Finally, thank you very much, sir, for the excellent presentation. The presentation is very knowledgeable for all participants. And thank you very much, sir. And finally, I would like to thank all the participants for joining the webinar. Thank you all, and for your patience and listening carefully. Thank you very much.
So we will all meet on 28th February,
Yes.
2 o'clock.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll send everyone to links to join the webinar.
Yeah, we will send it on our social media. No? Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you once again, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
And yeah,
Thank
have a
you,
good
sir.
day. Thank you, Dr. Hota.
Thank you.
No, yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.